Then the Prophet invited them the second day, and he said to them, I'm the messenger of God, and I'm going to launch my project, my prophethood, my messengerhood. فَأَيُّكُمْ يُؤَازِرُنِي, who is willing to stand with me, and that person is going to be my brother, my supporter, my aid, and my successor. Nobody answered. 3 times the Prophet repeats, every time Ali, who's maybe 13, 14, 15, God knows, he says, Ana ya Rasulullah, me, I'm going to stand with you. The Prophet says, Ali, sit down, let me hear the rest. Nobody said anything, nobody. And then the Prophet, see here, see for yourself how history changes. Tabari changes the story. This is his tafsir, my friend. This is his tafsir. This is volume what? This is volume 11, okay? This is page 142. He says the Prophet says to his community, إِنِّي قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِخَيْرِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَقَدْ أَمَرَنِي اللَّهُ أَنْ أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَيْهِ فَأَيُّكُمْ, who among you, يُؤَازِرُنِي, supports me, عَلَى هَذَا الْأَمْرِ, which is a prophethood, عَلَى أَنْ يَكُونَ أَخِي وَكَذَا وَكَذَا, he becomes my brother and such and such. What does such and such mean? What is it? Isn't the Prophet an eloquent person? He does not know how to elaborate. The Prophet says such and such. The Prophet was short on vocabulary. What is such and such? Can an author today, if I am a speaker, I come to you and I want to explain something to you. I want to tell you about the city of Los Angeles. I say to you, oh my friends, you know, Los Angeles is such and such and such. What would you say about me? He says, the Prophet said, that person is going to be my brother and such and such. See, and such and such. قال فأحجم القوم عنها جميعا. Nobody answered him. They refrained. All those 40 men, they held back and they refrained and they did not answer. So Imam Ali says, أنا يا نبي الله أكون وزيرك فأخذ برقبتي. The Prophet put his hand on my neck. برقبتي. ثم قال إن هذا أخي وكذا وكذا. The Prophet said, even my son is laughing, believe me. Even my son who's 15 years old, he's laughing at this. Because it can't be. The Prophet would not say such and such. The Prophet would finish the sentence. And I'm going to tell you soon what the Prophet said by the same author in a different book. Same author. So the Prophet said, هذا أخي, this is my brother, and such and such. فَاسْمَعُوا لَهُ وَأَطِيعُوا. فَاسْمَعُوا لَهُ وَأَطِيعُوا. Listen to him and obey him. The Prophet is telling Bani Hashim. We come to the Tarikh. See, this was the tafsir by Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. This his book on Tarikh. And thank you, Abu Fahad, for bringing these books yesterday. This is his book, Tarikh, History, by the same author, Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Muhammad ibn Jarir says in chapter, what chapter? This is chapter 2, my friends. This is page 203. This is page 203. He mentions the same story. But then he says, وَقَدْ أَمَرَنِي اللَّهُ أَنْ أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَيْهِ فَأَيُّكُمْ يُؤَازِرُنِي. Who's going to support me on this mission, the mission of prophethood? عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَكُونَ أَخِي وَوَصِيِّي وَخَلِيفَتِي. Can you see here? Can you see? If he supports me, he will be my brother and such. Rather than saying such and such, he says, وَوَصِيِّي, my trustee, وَخَلِيفَتِي, my successor. قال فأحجم. Nobody spoke. Nobody volunteered. They refrained from answering the Prophet. وقلت, and Imam Ali says, أنا يا نبي الله أكون وزيرك عليه. I will be your aid, your supporter. فأخذ برقبتي. The Prophet put his hand on my neck. ثم قال إن هذا أخي ووصيي وخليفتي. This Ali, little Ali, is my brother. Do you know the Prophet is 30 years older than Ali? The Prophet probably here was 45 and Ali was only 15. So the Prophet is saying, this man Ali is my brother and my trustee, wasiyi, and my khalifa, my successor. فيكم فاسمعوا له وأطيعوا. Then listen and obey him. And he then mentions the story again in the following page, page 203. He says, على أن يكون أخي وصاحبي ووارثي. Ali becomes my brother, my companion, and my inheritor. This is how they changed the history. You know, the same author, in tafsir he says such and such, in tarikh he mentions the truth. You know why? Because he was sanctioned and he was punished, and he feared for his life. And he died in Baghdad in solitude, in his house. And he's a Sunni scholar. And then because